What's up, everyone? My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to the Let's Kick It series. On these episodes, we get the pleasure to be joined by professional athletes, get a little insight on their background and how they made it this far in their athletic careers. A conversation between athletes about their journeys leading them to success. I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, everyone? Hope you're all keeping safe with the COVID-19 pandemic, and my hope is that we're all doing our part in standing in solidarity with the racial justice movement and against police brutality because Black Lives Matter. My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Let's Kick It series. On this episode, I have the honor to introduce Taylor Milton. She's from San Diego, played at Santa Clara University for all 4 years, volleyball, 6 seasons pro abroad in 5 different countries, Switzerland, Germany, Philippines for 2 years, Greece and Cyprus, and is now currently looking for a new team as well. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Taylor. Taylor, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you're giving us on the Let's Kick It series.
I'm stoked to be here. This is going to be fun. I'm glad you called me.
No problem. Yeah. So, we can get started right away. Your journey as an athlete, everyone has a story. Different sports growing up. So what was your journey beginning as an athlete?
It's funny because if you ask as an athlete, it would date far back before volleyball. Besides being in the pool when I was like two months, I played soccer and volleyball all through high school. Played a little bit of basketball, I swam, but I was sticking to the 2 sports until I took up volleyball more seriously in high school. But yeah, it was a balance between the 2 sports. My parents kind of got me in everything, and then we kind of get to a certain age where you have to stick to one, and then volleyball was like my calling, and that's how it all started. So yeah, I don't know, how old are we when we were in middle school? 14 something like that.
That's awesome, right? Because you ended up finding out what you really wanted to play. So what was the difference, and what was, I guess, the turning point for you on playing volleyball later on in high school and, making that decision to now play soccer? So what was that deciding factor for you?
I think your time starts to get squeezed, and you start to get pressed to kind of like, if you want to play in college, where are your priorities, like what makes more sense. And for me, I just really started to find this like infatuation with volleyball. I played soccer far longer than I ever played volleyball. And I was like, I would say, okay, not in your world. I know you play and you're a professional. So, okay, in recreational club, whatever world. I was okay, but not great. I was super tall, but not fast. And so I was like, volleyball is starting to be a thing. And all signs pointed to that. And so, yeah, it kind of was more like I ran out of time. And so I had to choose one, and volleyball was kind of grabbing my attention. I don't know.
That's awesome, right? Because you ended up finding out, like, you weren't as good enough to play soccer, at a collegiate level. And so after being, competitive playing volleyball throughout high school, like, how was the process for you for, getting a college like scholarship or getting just offers from colleges to go play? How was that process for you while being in high school?
It was pretty cool. It all happened really fast, and it happened when I was quite young. Like I knew I was verbally committed, I think as young as you could or kind of were at the time. So my sophomore year, um, one of the girls from my high school, Lexi Williamson, she was committed to Santa Clara already, and the head coach would come down, John Wilson, and he would um, check in with her. He'd come to her games, and I created a relationship with him. And I was like, the school is similar to from my high school to Santa Clara. It's an amazing program. And honestly, like I looked at a few in California, but I was kind of like, you find one and you love it right away, and you didn't really want to look outside it. So he was immediately interested in me. We started a relationship, like a conversation, like whatever you're allowed to have at the time. I went up and visited as soon as I could. He presented an offer to me, and like I considered a couple other places, but I wanted somewhere that I could play right away and not go super big like Pac-10, Pac-12. I did look at some, but at the end of the day, I was like, I think I just want to go with my gut, or my first love, whatever. And yeah, so it was by the time I went into my junior year, I had signed, sealed, delivered, got it off my things to do.
That's amazing, right? Once you see that that was the place that you wanted to go to, and as much as athletes, I mean, it's a dream come true. Once you find that one school that
Yeah.
you wanted to go to, you don't have to keep looking for that. And so the transition for you from high school to college, I mean, you're becoming a rookie in a sense, And so how was that for you on coming in, playing with older girls now, getting your feet wet in the collegiate level and like trying to make that starting spot? How was that for you?
I'm definitely thankful for the way high school and college are laid out, where varsity is the same as basically collegiate volleyball. If you're good when you're young, you're on the older varsity team right away. So you get that exposure early, which I think eliminated a little bit of intimidation for me. Nonetheless, there was a lot of adversity going into Santa Clara. I was a freshman with the intention of trying to start. And I did manage to start, but you're constantly climbing the ladder. There was a lot of talented older girls. And so I would say that it was a smooth transition because the coaching staff was just super supportive, and I loved to work. I loved to work hard. I loved to be pushed. And so it was more of like a fun challenge than a struggle. Obviously that's always there, but I would say it was pretty cool. I ended up starting and playing my freshman year. Maybe it ended up changing up a little bit throughout the year. But yeah, rookie was like most others, a learning year in a million ways, but I would say not too tough, not too bad.
Yeah, as an athlete, right, that's kind of the smooth transition that you want to have when you're playing any sport, right? Because it's tough sometimes when you come in and you don't have that support from the coaching staff or the team. And so were there any other obstacles that you faced, and how did you overcome them while being in college?
Um, I would say probably like a little bit of the injury stuff. I had my knee was a thing here and there throughout the 4 years. And obviously school presented itself as a challenge sometimes, and I would be, you always want to keep a solid balance. And then we had a little bit of a turnover, like a few new coaches, a few new trainers. And so it always kind of just threw you out of a consistent routine, I guess, as a team. And so there were some obstacles there, but overall, I would say it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, as an athlete, especially going into the college, sport whole experience, I mean, it's very tough to see players go and their mental also be part that weakens them and either breaks them or makes them, and like you said, there was a point in time where you had plenty of other coaches coming in and out, and you still had to prove yourself like day in and day out that you were part of the team, that you were ended up being captain, and so if you can talk a little bit about that when becoming a captain on the varsity team, like how was that for you, and what do you think was the biggest things that you learned as a leader and as a player before becoming a captain?
Captain speaking in professionally or in college?
in college?
Okay, I would say I was more of like a court, like on the court type of captain because we had two other girls my year that were just natural all around great leaders. And so I would say they definitely took the reins and they were more or less the captain because they just kind of embodied the team spirit more than I did. I was very like, okay, this is what I'm doing. um, but I think on the court, I always just like pushed and strived and locked in on trying to lead through example. And because I managed to stay on the court all 4 years, the coaches saw that that type of value is also helpful, not just someone that is like the family man. I don't know why I always call it that, but the team family man is always like the best captain. And I was just like, I want to go, I want to grind, I want to make sure you're there next to me, and I want to bring you on this ride along with us. And or at least that's how I've acquired being a captain over the years. But I think I was just learning that back then, and that's kind of the way I led as a captain back then. Is I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to try and lead through example and like hold on, and we're going to go through this together. So yeah.
As a captain, I mean, you embody pretty much the team as a whole becoming that leader. And you, like you said yourself, you did it in a different way, but you still found a way to be a leader, on the team. And that's great to see because as a captain, you have to have so many different roles, and you need those who are hard, that want to give and push. And like you said, like yourself, you're more of the family man where you kind of were the glue to the team. And so at what point did you know that you can now turn, your collegiate level and become a pro? At what point did you know, okay, now that I've played my 4 years here, now I can become a pro and I can make it in a higher division?
I'd have to say my path was there to professional volleyball was a little funky because it's not your like generic success story. Like a lot of collegiate players like that are excel, they were great, they were successful, they had jobs presented, and it just took off from there. We kind of had a rocky 4 years. It wasn't the greatest. I was always like trying to be better. We were never super successful. And for volleyball, collegiate volleyball on the beach was becoming a thing at the same time. So we got 2 seasons opportunity to play beach volleyball as well, which kind of threw like a ring in things. And I opted out of the last season of beach, which kind of gave me this like huge chunk of time without any volleyball. And I thought a lot about it. And I was like, I'd been contacted by an agent through my college coaches. And I was like, you know what? There's something inside me that's telling me to go and see what I can make of myself on an individual basis, somewhere new in a completely different atmosphere of volleyball, because I thought there was a little bit more left in me. And I contacted an agent, I did my research, and then he went out and found me a job, which ended up in Germany. And honestly, like, I think the game of volleyball and the love I have for the sport took off starting in professional, because it was just something totally different than I ever experienced in college, which was cool because then I feel like I got 2 different experiences that were both super valuable.
How was that whole experience for you on signing your first contract? I mean, that's a player's dream, athlete's dream, wherever they go, to sign the first professional contract. So how was it for you once you got that call from your agent and was able to go to Germany? I mean, how was that? Can you tell me a little bit about your experience? How happy was your family? I mean, how shocked were you and happy at the end of the day to be able to take your, skills to a higher level?
It was very exciting, that's for sure. I would say a little bit nerve-wracking because a big reason I ended up at Santa Clara is because I was like, oh, I'm from California. I'm going to stay in California. I like California weather. And so on like a lifestyle standpoint, I was like, all right, I'm going to go play professional volleyball. I'm super stoked, but like, what is winter? And so I was a little bit nervous just on like a large scale of things. And then obviously, like, again, you're just going off on your own. But when I was able to see that paperwork in front of me and sign, seal, send it off and start preparing. I think it didn't really set in until I started like working with my trainer and I got back in the gym. I actually worked at Santa Clara for a while, but also back at home. And I just started getting prepared. I think that's when like the excitement turned up and I was really like, all right, this is like gung ho. I had no idea what to expect, which was the best part because then you just like over prep so that you're like super fit and ready. And then the rest, you're just like cannonballing into God knows what. And it was like probably one of the coolest experiences ever, considering I played for so long until now.
Was the language, some that was kind of a barrier for you, or was it like, well, how was the transition with the language for you?
Um, German's a tough language. I, ironically, I've still been trying to learn it because I have like a means of living. I live there half the year. But it's not that intimidating because everybody loves to speak English when they get the opportunity, and everybody just naturally does because they grew up learning it. So there was times where you would get in a position that you were like, okay, I can't speak to this guy. He doesn't get what I'm saying. And you kind of have to figure it out. You like mime it out and whatever. But for the most part, no, it's not that bad. And the public transportation, there's English everywhere. They're not going to like send you to a mystical world and
Yeah.
there's no hope in sight. But
No,
at least from my experience, I don't know. Maybe there's places like that.
definitely. I mean, I feel like once you do go and sign abroad, it's completely different. I mean, you're leaving your family. Like I said, the language can be a barrier for some people. And most countries, I mean, you don't know the language, but you do have people who speak English and teammates who help you out throughout the time. And so being out there, now playing abroad, the transition of leaving your family, was that something for you that was hard to do? Or was it okay to have just, a FaceTime, a phone call with your family? Because, I mean, you're also hours ahead of Cali time. And
Mhm.
so how was that for you to really leave home? I mean, you left home a little bit closer to Santa Clara, but now you're across the way. And so how was that for you to really see and be kind of independent?
Yeah, we're not very close anymore, huh? um, I'd have to say everybody tells you like give it 3 months and it gets easier. And I think I gave it 2 weeks and I freaked out and I was like, 3 months? Um, but they were absolutely right. I think you get a little homesick in the beginning because your whole day is consumed by volleyball and it's becomes your life. Even though, okay, it was in college, but this is something else. And it's now your job. And so you're learning how to manage it as a profession and like mentally, emotionally, all those things are now being accounted for in a professional way. And so, yeah, I struggled. I would say naturally, I would call them. They would always make time. But once you kind of got going, and once I felt like I got my footing, and I gave it that 3 months that people had told us to take, honestly, it was great. And we found a routine and I would call my parents every so often and things were fine. And actually both my mom and my dad made a trip out, which was so nice because whenever family gets to watch and support you, it always makes the world go round. But if you ask them now, like they'll be lucky to get a call once a week. You just kind of like sink in and it becomes life. And um, they've still always made it out to watch. My dad definitely has come everywhere. He's chased me around the world, but yeah, it's you find your way. As long as you know that at the end of the day they're there, and even if you wake them up in the middle of the night, like they're there, you'll find your way. And you're without them in college, so it's not so much different. You just kind of have to convince yourself of that, and that everything is pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing, to have, like you said, your dad that been everywhere seeing you play. I mean, not a lot of athletes have that, opportunity to have their parents go out and see them play in all of these different countries that they've, are
Hmm.
playing in. And so that is definitely, a plus to have, that support from your family at the end of the day to always be there for you. And like you said, they're one phone call away and at the end, and they will always be there.
Oh yeah, and it was an excuse for him to travel the world too, so it
Yeah,
wasn't the worst
definitely.
thing. It was a win-win.
It was definitely a win-win situation. He can see you play, and he can travel to what 5 different countries,
Oh
which
yeah.
is amazing. And so, what after playing your first season in Germany? I mean, you were able to play in 4 other different countries, right? And so, what kept you motivated throughout those times? I mean, I know you won championships as well. I mean, you won championships in when you're in Cyprus. You were also match MVP in the Philippines when you played there in 2018 season. Same thing, 2017 season, you're the match MVP twice. And so, what keeps you motivated throughout these times now? You're playing your 6th season. And so, what is it that keeps you motivated? I mean, to keep on going. A lot of players, athletes, they can say, oh, I played 2, 3 seasons, call it quits, but you haven't. And so, what is it that keeps you motivated throughout these years?
You know, I think again, I'd have to say I'm not your typical athlete because I broke my profession into 2 pieces. I broke it into my personal life and my sport life or my professional life. Um, the sport as a whole, I made it that way. And I committed to, after my first season, saying, obviously there may be success in one place, but I want to continue to go new places every year as long as it lasts, as long as I'm healthy, and as long as I love this sport. And so that's kind of what got me somewhere new every year. And then when it came to the sport itself, I I don't know how we ever give up on wanting to become better. And for some reason, if you're okay with nothing ever really being good enough, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. That's how I work. I was always like, I think there's more. I think there's more. And I looked down, my knees were working, my shoulders were working. I was healthy. And so I was like, all right, I think there's more. And I have this, like, I've absolutely fallen in love with travel and living abroad and the cultures and the people that are not only on your team and in the company and the community around the sport, but the people you meet in your daily life in a new place. And I could not give all of that up just because I was done with the sport, I guess. So for all these years that have gone by, I've been striving to go somewhere new, or I've been striving to play again and again, just because of all those different facets of what this sport has brought into my entire life. And so for that reason, until somebody takes that away, which may be COVID, who knows? Um, yeah, that's what's given me the reason to continue on.
Yeah, having that, I mean, as part of your life, being able to travel and, like you said, meeting new people. I mean, that's kind of the best thing as an athlete, a professional athlete playing in so many different places. I mean, you really don't see the world until you become, a traveler. And so it's amazing to see that you're able to do that through your sport. And it's also kind of your hard work, has paid off, because all those times you cry, all that sweat that you put out on that court is like, it's actually paying off now. And you're able to see that when you go out and travel and go to these new beautiful places that you really never thought you would go. I mean, maybe for vacation, but never to play.
Yeah,
And so,
it's definitely a little different than your 2-week vacay, which is
yeah,
great. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but
if you could talk a little bit about your first championship. I mean, you were in Cyprus. You won the Super Cup in 2019. How was that experience for you? I mean, it's amazing to win a championship, when you're younger, but now playing at a professional level, at the highest level, how was that for you?
well, here's the real breakdown. It was a win, but it was like it's a COVID win because Cyprus was this past season. We were in playoffs and we had won the league itself.
Yeah.
So we had known, well, the layout was a little strange. We had won Super Cup, which was like the coolest experience. It was like a big tournament where the whole country plays itself to the top. Um, and so that was really cool, something I'd never really experienced before, to the to the top, in a country that has such big fan following. They were great. There was like all the confetti and all that stuff. So, and it's just rewarding. And so, but what happened is then we went into playoffs after Super Cup, because it's, like I said, it's a little strange. And we were in the semifinals, but they laid it out where it was like a semifinal of 4. This sounds really weird. And it's based off of points. And we had played a game that was ghosted because of COVID. And then where the points were at when they canceled the league the next day made us win. So we had kind of known we were already going to win, but COVID ended it before the last game could have been played to like solidify it. So not as glamorous as you would have worked for. Obviously, we were aspiring for something much bigger, but it was exciting nonetheless, because after the number of years that I played, I'd been really close often, but I'd never won. So wish I could say it was the best win and it was super exciting, which it was still great. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, COVID put a funky spin on my championship.
Definitely. I mean, it's not being the one you wanted, but at the end of the day, you're still a champion, and that's not a lot of people can say that. And so if you can pick one place that you've played at that's your favorite, which place would it be? Putting you on the
spot.
Such
a heavy loaded question, because like every place I've chose could not be more different than each other, but I did it on purpose, so I have to be able to answer this question. I'd probably say Greece, just because it's like my favorite place in the entire world. It was a great level. The sport itself, I succeeded there. So I think a part of me like loved it because it was such a great season. The team was strong. The girls were great. The staff was amazing. I worked with the trainer, and honestly, he has a piece of my heart still, like just good people. Where I lived was beautiful. I was in Athens, and the travel took you to islands. Like there were teams on the islands, there was teams up the coast. So, you got full exposure, and with it being, successful, I got to see the place. I connected to so many people on my own personal level. I had an American group of people I met. I had locals that I had gotten close to, and then it's just drop dead gorgeous. Nothing beats that. But you ask me about the other countries, and I'll say something quite similar, like the Philippines and these people, and Germany and these people, and eye candy Switzerland. But I think I would have to say Greece is my favorite.
Yeah, Greece is a beautiful place. I mean, you can
never
beat
ask anybody that wants to go on vacation. That's where they end up going anyways, right?
Yeah, they want to go to Santorini or Mykonos, right? And those places are amazing. But like I said before, I mean, it's a blessing, right, to see that your skills have helped you travel. I mean, being able to go around the world playing the sport you love. I mean, that passion that you still have for the sport, like you said before, is not going away. As long as you can, your knees are working, your shoulders are working, you're good to go.
True. Yeah. I don't want to be one of those players, knock on wood, that like has to stop because she gets hurt now. Don't want to jump the gun there. But yeah, it's definitely hard to call it quits on your own. Like if I'm just kind of rolling with it. And I feel like the older you get, you start to learn how to like relax and kind of compartmentalize pressure and stress that we have in the game, like when we're in college. And we're, I'm sure maybe you can relate, there was always stress and pressure, and you have to win and this and that. And the longer you play, the game gets easy. It gets slow in your head, and it gets more enjoyable. At least that's my experience. And when you're able to take that sense of control and like being present, and then you put it in a high level of, a competitive atmosphere, it's cool. It's beautiful. It's a great level. It's a great outcome of volleyball or any sport. And so, yeah, I can't manage to put that away yet. We'll see. But
no, yeah, as an athlete, you never want to put up the boots, the cleats, the shoes, anything.
You're going to have to pull me out and sit me on the bench and call it quits.
And so I know COVID, I mean, is ruining pretty much every season in the world. But what is next for you? What is the next level that you want to be at? Do you want to play in different countries, or what is next for you?
Um, so I did sign a contract early on in COVID, and it was the one country I'd been wanting to play in. It was France. And just unfortunately, with the way COVID has played out, it ended up like sponsor money fell apart, uncertainty came into play, and it ended up not being a good option for me. So we had to cancel the contract, which was a pity. But I am now looking at a couple other options, which I'm excited about. And one is back where I've already been. I'm kind of like superstitious, so I'll talk in general. And the other one is somewhere new and relatively same level. I think obviously everyone wants to take a step forward. Like I would love to play in Italy. It's a high level that I've looked at in the past. But again, like Italy is one of the places hurting the most from COVID. So it's strange, but now we're being forced to kind of consider that extra reason if a season and a contract makes sense. So not only was I looking at like, is the money stable and is the level good? And now it's like, what is COVID like in this country? And are they going to be able to play? Like that's the big thing is will this country let us get visas as Americans? Are they going to play? Are they going to postpone the league? Are they going to have ghost games? So it's throwing a lot of strange questions in, but I'm looking at a couple things. I'm excited. I'm hoping something works out. But yeah, shoot, I don't know. This year is going to be weird. So I'm just like holding on and seeing what's happening. Thank God for my agent being so helpful.
Yeah, this year has definitely taken a turn with the sports industry, but I hope nothing but the best for you. And I know you'll, if it's not France, hopefully Italy. If not, you go back to one of the teams you were at before. And so after seeing, and I mean, going through all your whole success story, I mean, winning a championship, playing, collegiate level, playing 6 seasons in the pro level. I mean, who can you really credit your success to?
Um, I'm kind of glad you didn't ask who my role model was, even though that's kind of the same question because that's a hard one. But I think success comes from those that take the time to help you along and teach you. That's what I've always believed. So it started with my parents. Both of them were athletes, my professional athletes, actually. And then, it was handed off. That's funny. I went through high school. I had some really valuable coaches that are now friends this day and age that helped me along. I had amazing mentors, coaches, and friends that were coaches for me in in college. And then every year, good or bad, I've had a new coach as a professional, and you don't always learn in a positive way. Sometimes you learn what not to do or how to work with people you butt heads with. And all those things, believe it or not, have contributed to my success, because if I didn't know how to work with adversity in culture, in I don't know, the millions of things that challenge a team to be successful inside a team, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I would say a lot of my success has come gradually every single year from the people that have helped me become me and help coach me, help be a teammate, all those different things. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily one person, but my parents have definitely been a great role model and support system along the way. So I definitely can't be too modest. I have to say that they were, they were helpful.
Yeah, our parents are definitely, part of the success, like you talked about, all those people who were behind you throughout the time and giving you that, extra push that you needed every time you were playing and you were out on the court when you were injured, or even like your agent who has been your support, with getting you teams for 6 seasons now. And so what advice would you give to your younger self about the journey that you've taken so far?
Oh, my younger self. um, I think one thing I tried to achieve back then that I worked on as I got older was be patient, be consistent, and then be reliable. Um, be patient because be patient, be present. Because when you're not present, so much takes away from your sport and so much takes away from your success and your performance. So if you learn to be present, so many other things will fall in line. Be patient because, you're going to try your hardest one day and play terrible, and you're going to be sick as a dog, and you're going to have the best game of your life. So you just have to be patient with whatever performance is showing up that day. You have to be as present as possible to put that performance on the table. And then as soon as you figure that out, you have to be consistent, because you want to remember, all the things that you can control and put that on the table every single day in and day out, practice to game, so that you're prepared. I think until I realized that the effort you put out in a game needs to show up in practice. And coaches say that, but it finally sinks in at some level, and you're like, train your, but your ass off in practice so that you're fully prepared. That's when everything else gets easy and everything else falls in line. So be present, be patient, be consistent is probably what I would tell myself. Who knows if I would listen, but that's what I would say.
As an athlete, I mean, you definitely want to practice the way you want to play at the end of the day. And like you said, you want to put out 150% during training, because that's really where everything comes out, so that when it comes to game time, it's easier for you. And you spoke about it right now, and that's very true. A lot of people who are seeing from the outside think it's easy, to just go into training and then go on to, game time, but it's not. You have to put double the effort throughout training, so that when you go into games, it becomes, that fluidity that you want to have, be more fluid with all your movements and all the things that you're doing. And so, your favorite volleyball moment? I know you have plenty of them,
Oh
but I'm
boy.
gonna put you on the spot. If you can give me one, or two, three couple of volleyball moments, throughout college or even your professional career, what would they be?
Oh man. Well, I wouldn't say it was great for me, but a highlight of my career. Um, I played a game in the Philippines that was 5 sets against a team that had a foreigner that in that game scored 57 points, which was one of the top five um, highest scores in the world, like a record. And I just remember this game that she touched every single ball. Like on that side of the net, every ball went to her. And she put that away. She was like this 6'4", 6'5", huge, gorgeous, Cuban, just absolutely ripped woman. Like she was amazing. She was injured in a bigger league, came down to this league to play injured, believe it or not, and was just manhandling everyone. And we had a fantastic team. It was the semifinal game. They ended up losing, thank God, because she decided to hit the 58th ball out of bounds. But yeah, the crowd was insane. Everyone was screaming. These games were super televised on ESPN. So TV was going nuts. Every time they would score, she would score, they would like put the score up on the board, which was like insane amount of pressure that this girl had to keep putting points up. I don't know how she wasn't gassed. So as much as I'd like to say this is a memory for me, I was just being a part of like the coolest and also trying to win, which thank God we did. At least I did my job. But the coolest experience, because that game ended up being on the news and like on ESPN and all the other places that people could tweet, whatever, put it for like a week. And so, it makes you feel like you're getting a taste of the top level of a sport that you work to achieve your whole life. So too short for Olympics. So that was like a good moment for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, being able to play in such a huge game like that, like you're saying, I mean, you weren't like on her team, but you did play against her, you know, one of
Oh
the
yeah,
best
we
players.
had to not let her, you know, being a part, it was back and forth and back and forth. So we all, I mean, I had a girl, it was me, you can have two foreigners. So it was me and then this other Serbian who was also like 6'5", so short girl over here. Um, you know, we had to do all the work to make sure that we took care of the game against her. So it was just as much exciting for us. And obviously we did some great things, but I think just having that highlight in my career, being a part of something like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely the moments that we live for as athletes, like the championship game, playing against one of those players like that who are just killing it in the game, you know, in the league. And so being able to come forward with the win is the best thing too, to see. Like, yeah, you did all that, but I mean, did you get the win? You know?
Sorry. Yeah, definitely. And we went into the final. So, you know, even better.
Definitely. So I want to thank you once again for being part of the hashtag Let's Kick It series. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. And I hope nothing but the best.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. This was fun. I'm glad we got a chance to talk.
No problem. Thank you. And I hope to hear from you soon.
Same to you.
Thank you, everyone who joined in on this week's episode of the hashtag Let's Kick It series. I want to thank Taylor again for giving her time on being on the episode this week. Join in next week, and we'll have another professional athlete joining us and giving their insight and background on their professional careers.